and welcome one and all to the Visiting Entrepreneur Program kickoff for 2023. Before we get underway, I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land we are here gathered on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, as well as all First Nations people here with us for this exciting and interesting conversation today. Welcome to the Tech We All Deserve. This is the kick-off event for the 2023 Visiting Entrepreneur Program. I recognise many of the faces here. I've been fortunate to host this series for 5 years now, so many of you will know that this is an action-packed event smorgasbord, which is part of the City of Sydney's latest instalment, their commitment to this phenomenal program, which is designed to bring some of the world's best thinkers, entrepreneurs, movers and shakers, their expertise and knowledge to bring it into Sydney and to share it with the startup community here. The City of Sydney, you might have been across or been a part of, released their strategy 2030 to 2050 last year. And you can see how this event series makes a contribution to the commitment and the vision for Sydney as a green and equitable city for people, fueled by creativity and innovation with a strong sense of community. So this event is part of a free series produced by the City of Sydney with partner organisations, many of whom are here in this room, from the local startup ecosystem, a key component of the Tech Startups Action Plan. It's aiming to foster the culture of entrepreneurship and innovation in this great city. So this launch event here today is delivered in partnership with Stone and Chalk and Flex by ISP team. We thank them both for making it possible. We're in this beautiful modern space. Hands up who's first time in Collider. Yes, okay, almost everyone debuting at this wonderful space. Isn't it fantastic? What a great room to be in for a great conversation. There's a heritage-listed AGL showroom in Tech Central, so a very cool new premise for Sydney to have. The 2023 edition of the Visiting Entrepreneur Program is kindly supported by Tech Central and the Greater Cities Commission, and it's fitting and exciting in many ways. We get to be physically gathered here in this great venue here in Haymarket, one of the 6 historic neighbourhoods that make up Tech Central. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Uncle Michael from the West Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council to welcome us to country.
Pajadi Gamarua Gadigal Eora. Good day and welcome to Gadigal. How's everyone this afternoon? Good? Yes, it's an interesting space, isn't it, here? I like the dome. I was in here a few weeks ago for a launch of cultural competency and safety, when you think about it. And we need workplaces that are culturally competent and safe for everyone, don't we? No matter what postcode born in, no matter what gender you identify, no matter the colour of your skin, the shape of your eyes, your heritage, you should be able to fulfil your dreams and aspirations. Whether you have a disability or not, you should be able to fulfil your dreams and aspirations. We should be, as entrepreneurs, we should be creating cities and societies where everyone can have access, I think. It's probably about more having ramps and being smarter the way we design our cities and buildings instead of having less stairs, I think, is a way to go, isn't it? So we can really include people. And obviously where we are here is the land of the Gadigal. There's so much to learn from Aboriginal people about caring for country, ceremonial burning, and we can see through every year that we haven't been caring for country how we should be, because we see floods and we see fires. Now we need to care for Mother Earth, because Mother Earth provides us with everything we have. From our buildings to our food to our clothes, everything's provided by her, and we need to respect her. She's very important to us. We only have one planet and we need to look after her. We have had a couple of difficult years, haven't we? Yes, through this pandemic, and we've still got a little bit of ways to go. I'm sorry, the pandemic's not over. We're still going through it. And we need to remember those that we've lost the last couple of years, I think is so important. Because remember, the people we lost, they weren't just numbers on a screen. They were people who had their own aspirations and dreams, as you guys do. They belonged to family. They had their own names, their own communities and their own families, as I said. And we need to remember them, because it's important that we respect them, and also that we be better individuals when you think about it in society, because we can be great individuals. We need to create a better world and a better society as we see the strife and the turmoil around the world as we currently do. And hopefully with the work that you're doing, being an entrepreneur, and the organisations and businesses you're creating are helping with address Mother Earth and looking after her and creating sustainability. So if we have a moment's silence to pay respects to Mother Earth, pay respects to those we've lost, pay respects to ancestors, and pay respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander traditional owners, elders and custodians for looking after this place we call Australia, and the rich cultural history and the spirit of the land, and reflect your journey here right now. So if you have a moment's silence and a moment of reflection and paying respects, thanks. Think of this. What is the oldest human-made construction in New South Wales and the world? Out in the middle of New South Wales. Brewarrina fish traps. Aquaculture engineering, 40,000 years old. Yes, 40,000 years old. And when you get a chance, Google Huntingbird Manuscript Vatican, Manuscript Vatican, you will see a cockatoo in there. Goes back almost 800 years, 1241. Aboriginal people interacted with the world, and one of those ways was with sea cucumbers. And I was just up the Great Barrier Reef on Saturday, and I saw sea cucumbers, about this big they are, and they part of our trade with Indonesia, mocassins, and also up into China. I made this point last year with the Chinese ambassador and also the consuls with the 50th anniversary of Gough Whitlam going to China, open up diplomatic relations. I said, we have been friends in the past based on trade, sharing yarns, sharing food. What can the future hold, I think? And you guys are all leaders, correct? Yes? You're starting your own businesses, you should be leaders. You're not very keen to put your hand up and admit it, but you are leaders. It's important to be good leaders. Good leaders is about sympathy, empathy, compassion, build capacity of those around you, also understanding being a good follower, relying on the science, and being a good communicator, listening, taking it in, and communicating with those in front of you and respecting people and treating them with dignity. As always, you should treat people the way you want to be treated. On behalf of Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, our members and elders, welcome here. Good luck with your journey, as we say. And always was, and what is it? Aboriginal land never ceded. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Michael. I've had the good fortune of working with you a couple of times, and I always appreciate how thoughtful and educational your welcomes to country are. So thank you for welcoming us today. Speaking of being good leaders, it now gives me great pleasure to welcome the Right Honourable, the Lord Mayor of Sydney, Clover Moore, AO, to commence the VE program for 2023. Welcome, Clover.
Thank you, Holly, and hello, everyone. I'd like to thank Michael for his welcome, and I would also like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of our land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I acknowledge their elders past and present, and I acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people other than Michael who are here this afternoon. We have a special guest, Galit Ariel from Toronto, Canada, who you will be hearing from very soon, and Lisa Noonan, the Acting Executive Director of Tech Central. So, it is no coincidence that Sydney has the largest tech startup sector in Australia. Sydney has a rapidly growing innovation economy and a culture of entrepreneurship which the city has nurtured. All levels of government, business, research, educational and other institutions are collaborating to develop the Tech Central Innovation Precinct. And Sydney is a safe and desirable destination that attracts entrepreneurs and investors. While our harbour views and national parks are arguably the best in the world, Sydney has more than good looks. It's ideal for startups because it's inclusive, it's cultured and it's smart. We respect our First Nations people who derive from the oldest living continuous culture in the world, and we have one of metropolitan Sydney's largest Aboriginal communities. We value and support our multicultural communities. Half our residents are born overseas, and we are committed to equity for all people, regardless of their gender, their sexual orientation, their age, their ability, their race, or their ethnic origin. The ecosystem value of Sydney's startup sector is already estimated to be $102 billion, with about $10 billion being invested each year in local companies. This has put us at number 20 in the world in 2022, up from 24 the year before. But we have higher ambitions. Sydney, Australia's only global city, is already home to world-class universities, medical facilities, and more than 100 research institutions that accommodates the highest performing economic corridor in Australia. With all levels of government collaborating with research institutions, the Tech Central Precinct will be ground zero for the future of Australia's knowledge economy. This is about creating the industries of the future, the high-value jobs, and exchanging knowledge to solve the most pressing economic, environmental, and social problems of our times. The city is supporting innovation through a range of programs, from subsidising prime office locations for startups to the Visiting Entrepreneur Program. This program connects international experts with our local startup ecosystem to share their expertise and insights on future and transformative technologies. It has brought 31 talented international entrepreneurs to Sydney and has worked with 90+ industry partners to deliver more than 100 events for more than 10,500 people since its inception in 2017, and all of it is free. This has helped to foster a culture of entrepreneurship, innovation and creativity that has raised awareness of Sydney's tech startup ecosystem around the world. Later this year, for example, South by Southwest will bring its renowned celebration of innovation and creativity to Sydney, and it will be the first time the event has been held outside North America. So I would like to thank the visiting entrepreneurs, the local experts, the sponsors and the ecosystem partners for supporting this knowledge exchange and networking program. I'm very excited to open the 2023 Visiting Entrepreneur Program with this year's theme of Crossroads, Hype and Disruption, and with a great lineup of global innovators who will conduct talks, courses and workshops over the week. And to open today's event, I'm sure you're going to be inspired by Galit's keynote address and the discussions on exploring and balancing the impact of technology on our lives and on our futures. Thank you. Make the most of this.
Thank you so much to Lord Mayor there for getting us formally underway for 2023 and for all of your leadership and support of the entrepreneurial community. That's an incredible thing to hear that Sydney's moved from 24 to number 20 in the world when it comes to total value of the startup ecosystem. I just want to acknowledge how many people in this room have contributed so significantly to that. And I think both those in absentia and those here, can we just have a collective round of applause for that achievement? That's pretty exciting. Well done. Now, great events like this would not be possible without fabulous partners. So before we get underway, we're going to hear from one of them, and that is Tech Central. We're very lucky, I think, in Sydney to have Tech Central, a beating heart of innovation here in Sydney. It's Australia's most mature innovation and technology corridor with a thriving ecosystem, as we've just heard about, of world-class universities, startups and tech. Let's hear a little bit more.
Tech Central, Sydney's innovation heart.
Becoming the most inclusive, sustainable, and creative innovation district ecosystem on the planet.
Over 6 square kilometers, 6 neighborhoods, and 3 nodes.
Well, if you don't join Tech Central, you'll be missing out on that amazing buzz of disruption and creativity and visionaries, but it's so contagious. It's an energy that makes everything possible.
Where we come together to share ideas, to collaborate, and to make a better future.
Innovation is about coming together and having ideas combine, clash, and bump into each other. Working together with companies that are large and small and from different industries, that's where innovation happens, and collaboration is really a byproduct of that. Having a place to go and collaborate and get new ideas, to get new opportunities to work together, it gives everybody a huge advantage.
Bring your hearts and minds. Come and join us.
Sensational. And joining us to welcome us on behalf of our event sponsors, please welcome Liza Noonan, the Executive Director of Innovation Districts at the Greater Cities Commission.
Thanks so much, Holly. And I too would like to begin by acknowledging country, that we are gathered on the lands of the Gadigal, the first scientists, innovators and custodians of this beautiful country. I pay my respect to elders past and present, and I extend that respect to all First Nations people here today. Tech Central is honoured to once again partner with the City of Sydney on this wonderful Visiting Entrepreneurs program. Tech Central is a connected community of researchers, developers, clinicians, businesses, investors, founders, but above all, people. People who collectively have the ability to innovate, not just for the sake of technology advancement, but for the good of humanity. At Tech Central, we have innovators who are working together to improve global food security, advance equitable access to preventative health, remove the scourge of modern slavery, and accelerate the development of zero energy carbon sources. And that list of problems being solved is by no means exhaustive. These innovators are a living demonstration that, as today's visiting entrepreneur recently said in some press she did before this event, socially beneficial technology and commercial viability aren't mutually exclusive. It is the entrepreneurs and founders, many of you here among us today, the Jamila Gordons, the Thomas Mashmeyers, the Ali Todds and Alfred Lowe's who call Tech Central home. These are the bold and visionaries, persistent visionaries, I should say, to make the connections between purpose, tech, team and capital to do good in this world. Galit, thank you for visiting us to inspire the community of innovators that calls Tech Central and Sydney home. We are very much looking forward to your talk today on the tech we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liza. And without further ado, I'm going to kick off our program and get us underway. The Lord Mayor mentioned that this year's theme is Crossroads, the collision of hype and disruption. And through this year's VEP series, the events will be exploring this pivotal time that we're at in history, as this rapid diffusion of ideas, trends and tech disrupts society and business as we know it. Poised at this juncture, we're invited to consider this year what will bring about positive progress and what will unleash irreversible consequences. So to kick us off in our opening conversation today, we're exploring the question, how do we balance the role of tech in our lives and fix our tech futures? To guide us through that conversation, we have Galit Ariel, the TechnoFuturist named by Forbes as one of the 40 most influential futurists in the world in 2022. Galit's going to present to us on the good, the bad and the weird of the emerging trends and technology, as well as some of the human behaviours. And we'll have the opportunity to take your questions via Slido as we probe the opportunities, challenges and responsibility. But to begin, can you join me in giving a very warm Sydney welcome to our visiting entrepreneur, Galit.
Good day. So, I'm going to move this because I will fall over. You will see I move a lot. So today I want to talk to you about the tech we all deserve and about our relationship with technology. So I am Galit Ariel, currently residing in Toronto, Canada, where this is summer. And my background is coming from industrial design, experience design, human-computer interaction. I'm currently doing my PhD looking at the body within immersive spaces. I'm an author, I'm an uber nerd, I'm a Trekkie, and this was actually probably one of my proudest moments, doing a TED Talk, but that's not the point, doing it as a Trekkie. I do accept Star Wars fans as well. Except. And I want to talk about the fact of loving tech. And I do love tech. And I want to differentiate the fact that I love it, but I'm not in love with it. And I want to talk about the difference between loving tech and being in love with it, and where one can be, let's say, more awkward than the other. So I think that we all love technology, definitely people in this room, right? And I want to do like the wave of love for tech. We'll start with the AV team in the back that are supposed to make me be on time. Will never succeed. So if you love tech, let's do like the wave of like, we love tech. Okay, so we're going to start from that. You don't feel pressure if you don't love it. Just stay seated. Okay, so who loves tech? We'll start from there. Loving technology. Oh my God, we all love tech. And even if you don't love tech, know that sometimes we're in relationships where love does not exist, but we're still in that relationship. And the truth is that humanity, more than any other species, loves and have a very special relationship with tech. There are other species that use technologies, and I don't talk about digital technologies, but technologies of creating nests, of agriculture, of tools. This is true technology, but humanity has a very special relationship. And the reason for that is this. Now, I'm talking about myself, so I don't want to point any shame. But let's say this is not the most equipped space or body to deal with this hemisphere, right? And it's pretty embarrassing, right? This is the truth of how good we are in the world. So we have the cheetah, the horse, the ostrich, the dog, and the cat, the house cat, that all surpass Usain Bolt, which is humanity's fastest running human alive, right? And that's just running. I'm not even talking about breathing underwater, about having fur, claws, or any significant manner to survive this world, right? But what we do have is tech. And we are so ashamed of our bodies, and we are so underprotected that we even tell stories about how we had to cover it up. We say shame, but the shame is really the shame, unfortunately, of being under-equipped to live in this world. If we would like to be well-equipped as a species, this is how we will literally have to be to optimize our bodies, right? Ellis Roberts, a biological anthropologist, found the optimal human form, and that would be it. Now, I don't look like that. I don't think you do either. But this is what we could have been, right? And reality does bite, because our biggest enemy in the wild kingdom is the mosquito. So when we tell ourselves we're in the top of the pyramid, the truth is we're just below mosquito, that's for sure, okay? But then came tech. We found tech, and it lifted us. It lifted us above our human restraints and potential, and it was love in first sight. So ever since we had the first flint tools, and we could communicate through drawing, and we could create habitats and clothing, this is when humanity literally, especially in the West, literally found itself to be more dominant and influential in this world. And we were better together, right? Humanity lifted technology and evolved it, and technology evolved humanity. And we created shelters. These are from the 1800 housing built in Iran that are still existent today. We build habitats in desert, on tops of mountains, right? We started building our own concrete jungles. We created concrete so we can build skyscrapers that literally scrape the sky, right? We can 3D print concrete today to become more sustainable, finally, right? And we hacked beyond the habitat. We started understanding and hacking our own bodies. So yeah, this is a bit gruesome, but this is how we started hacking our bodies and understanding the biological systems inside us and having imaging of what's underneath our skin, right? In the 1800s, we started using X-ray, which was an accident, by the way, and understanding what's under our skins and started manipulating it. And have organ transplants and hacking, DNA and molecules and being able to change these and create vaccines and create medicine and create artificial limbs and change our biological destinies, right? We can even control machinery with the power of our mind. So this is from 2016, and we could already have human-computer robotic mind control interactions. Yes, Elon, it happened before you. We can even 3D print beating hearts and organs. I mean, this one is tiny, but it has been created 2 years ago, and we can now 3D print living organs. We are amazing, and we can redefine our gender, right? Destinies as well. We can reassign gender. We can allow people to become and to have the bodies they feel more adequate with. We also learn how to distribute knowledge versus oral history. We also developed visual communication. We created the print machine so we can print knowledge and share it around. We created a photocopy machine so we can copy knowledge and distribute it around. And of course, we created the World Wide Web where we can distribute knowledge digitally, right? And social media, where we can tell people what we had for breakfast. Now, the digital revolution is quite amazing and interesting. It did accelerate our relationship and distribution of technology, as well as our culture and thinking around technology. And we can see how in the last 20 years, 30 years, technology became from an industry into an infrastructure that is touching every single part of our lives. We can talk about, avoiding technology or reducing it. The truth is, if you want to operate in Western society in everyday life, from banking to just being in the world, abolishing technology is just not going to happen realistically, unless we decide altogether. Well, but this is, here to stay. This is the map of the World Wide Web in 1971. This is it. This was the World Wide Web then. Today, we, of course, can't put it in one slide. We can't probably map it at all, right? It became something that is beyond a device or a network. It's in the air, literally. It's through Wi-Fi. It's through digital connections. It's through clouds system. Notice also the wild and natural, metaphors we're using. It's in the clouds. And we can slice our attention. We can slice our communication across it. We can have virtual concerts, right? We don't have to, but we can choose to have same experiences that we have physically via virtual spaces. We create infinite virtual lands today that we can visit and edit ourselves, landscapes where we are digital gods, and we can shape ourselves, the world in it, the rules that go upon it. We can communicate and hypothetically, and I'm saying hypothetically because the devices are getting there, but I don't know if we all want to have digital injected in our everyday life, but we can now overcome physical barriers and add digital content into our everyday lives. And we are abolishing the physical barriers so much so that the image you see in the right is actually a 3D simulation. This is not a real person, right? This is the level that we arrived. And this one, for example, is accessible to every single person. It's a freebie software, the MetaHuman. You can all just go in and simulate yourself or someone else. So this is now becoming, from science fiction to science fact to reality. And this little nerd is kind of happy. But like every relationship, love also makes us do very strange things. So with all this technology that we're doing, we also created a selfie toast machine. Yes, this is the one thing humanity and the world needed. We also have, this is actually real, this is a robot strip club in Vegas. Yep, they dance for you. I think it's funny. This is actually like a robot. And, we can create our virtual self and fence ourselves if we have no friends, and do these kind of things. So love is strange. And this is where I want to hit this nail in the head and talk about the difference between loving and being in love, and doing things because we can and doing things because we should, right? And I want to talk about the state that we're at and the truth of how our love for tech became a little bit toxic, and I'm undermining it a little bit because with all these great things, these things also came. So we talk about, educating, via digital means and having access to everything. These two kids, right, had to go to a Taco Bell parking lot to connect. And they live in Silicon Valley, right? So we talk about accessibility and we talk about equity, but the truth is not all of us have the same access to technological tools or even networks, right? And when we go and say, well, it's your job to learn it, I'm kind of sheepish about that. I don't think it's people's role to come and meet tech. I think it's tech's role to step down and first realize who can have access to it. And also, having access to technology doesn't guarantee that knowledge will be acquired, because we can access many, many, many things on the digital realm. And here's a group of protesters during COVID that are protesting the fact that G5 technology caused the COVID virus, and they had all the access to technology that you can think of, right? So we have to really think about having access and what happens once you get this access, because the fantasy that we have of everybody going online and becoming wiser is, as we all know, not exactly the reality of how we utilize and apply technology. And even if we do have access, can we tell the truth from the truthy things? And I really love this differentiation between truth and truthy, because the acceleration of data and information and truth makes us see things and they feel truthy. This feels like this is Barack Obama talking, but it isn't. This is a simulation. This was a deep fake. And we have deep fake voices, deep fake images, Photoshop with chat GPTs and the likes. We have synthesized images. How do we even tell the difference once we have access and even the understanding? This is a big question that we have to figure out. We also have technologies that are built to grab, extract our data and process it and feed it back to we don't know who. So we have facial recognition, which is already racially biased. And we have means of control that deprive us from agency. So when we look on the left, this is a Chinese government, augmented reality systems that are meant to monitor citizens as they jaywalk. And once they are grabbed and their face are recognized, that data is either projected on large screens in the street to culturally and socially shame them, sent to their bosses, or sent to government control systems that take down their social points and can even deprive them from having passports. And that's in China. That's horrible. But this, the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, that can do exactly the same thing. And they are distributed to us to do the monitoring and grabbing the data. And yes, it's not government run, but where does the data go and what happens to it? Right? It's a big question. When we see these cute little robots dancing and we like it on LinkedIn, we have to remember These are military-grade robots that have been distributed during COVID in Singapore to make sure these are not a runner and his robot dog. This is a runner and a dog that controls the social distancing they're having during COVID. And this is New York, a couple of months ago, where these robots have been added to the police force in order to monitor civilians. And and this is happening right now in our relationship with technology. And it's happening to us whether we know it or not. And we already feel it. And if there's one thing that COVID made us realize, is that too much digital immersion can actually make us depressed. So from burnout, we're becoming burnt inside our digital silos. We have unbelievable body aspirations that we cannot complete. This is, by the way, the digital influencer Instagram Colonel Sanders. Now, I've been eating Kentucky Fried Chicken for a while. I never got them abs. I don't know about you, but I'll keep trying, right? And while we're talking about these amazing bodies in Silicon Valley, this is what's happening in the street. The homeless situation, do you know what the new San Francisco snow is? It's shattered glasses. They call it San Francisco snow because, cars are being broken into, because the gaps that we have in society right now. In Silicon Valley, the richest place in Earth, like virtually rich, it's not really money. That's what's happening. And even in Western countries, this is Amsterdam and this is the United States. We're talking about food desert. Even if we have access to food, we don't have nutrition. Because I'm going to tell you a secret, Kentucky Fried Chicken will not get you these abs or nutrition. But that's just me. And while we're doing all that and accelerating our digital aspirations, we're making up digital money that is free. It's just digital. But the energy has to come from somewhere. So we like to feel like we're just going to add digital assets and sell them and send them. And they don't take any space. They do take space. They do take space. And speaking about space and boys and their issues, I'm not going to say anything. They built it. Elon's one has green. Anyways, well, they're aspiring to go to Mars. This is what's happening on Earth. This image, and the bushfires, this is actually from Canada. Now, Canada, it's not that they don't have wildfires, but what is happening this year is a telltale of what we're doing with energy, with the environment, with the Earth we're living in, while we're fantasizing on these digital spaces, right? And I do have to say, kudos to Gen Z. They do get it. As a Gen Xer, I'm like, yes, they got it. They are realizing what's happening. They are trying to mobilize, but they also have to live in this world to make, money to live. And I'm not sure how they'll manage to live because we also delegated creativity because we obviously don't have enough creativity. We have to get, ChatGPT to do it for us, right? This is something we're lacking, and we're getting overpaid for art anyway. It's just one of these professions you can just give away. So I don't want to be cynical or finish it like on low energy because, remember the wave we had before? I'm not going to try and do it. But I do want to quote, Stephen Hawking, a really incredible individual that understands something about the world. And he said, "We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. And that makes us something very special." So we have to balance the fact that we are monkeys and that tech helps us overcome our biological state. And I think it's time for couples therapy between us and technology, right? I think we can, I think we should, and I think we must fix our relationship with technology because we're not going to separate. There are too many kids running around and they have, Fortnite accounts and stuff. We can't do that to them, but for the kids, we need to fix it, and for ourselves. So I think the first thing we have to do is be very honest about our situation and our relationship with tech and accept that we are flawed. It's absolutely fine. And it's going to be like that, right? And that technology is not like any relationship. The other person can't fix all our problems. That's not their job. So we have to understand we're flawed, but technology is also limited in its ability to fix everything. I don't want to hear anymore, we're going to hack COVID, we're going to hack this. There's no virus sitting there like, no, don't put technology. We have to accept that we are humans, we're part of an ecosystem that is living things. And some of us humans don't have tech or don't want tech, and that's absolutely fine, right? And we definitely have to shift our priorities and deal with the hard problems first. I'm talking energy, I'm talking food, I'm talking social justice, I'm talking the basics. Because if there's something Sandy Pentland said in 1976 already, and he's quite the scholar that understood big data and social data way before we all knew what AI was. And he said, we could solve world hunger today if we wanted to. And we all know this is also true. We can solve world hunger today if we wanted to. So why aren't we? And that is the biggest question. And we have to stop trying to move fast and break things because, first of all, we're not 5. Mentally, no. We shouldn't be aspiring to be 5 years old and just break things. But also, I think we broke everything that can be broken. It's done. We've done it. I think it's okay to move slower. Yes, I know, shocking. Move slower and fix things, right? That's also a very noble way to apply technology. And I think we need to really apply a fair relationship, right? And apply technology as humans in a way that really benefits society as a whole first, individuals, but also ecosystems, because we are in this world until we get to Mars. We won't, but let's say we won't. Until we get to Mars, I think there's some earthing to do right here, And most of all, if we apply all of these things that we inherently know that we should do for ourselves in every relationship, but definitely with tech, we have to start with radical self-love because we all deserve better tech. And I also think technology deserves a little bit better than what we apply it to do. So in conclusion, I want to thank you for being here. I want to make sure you all still love tech in a healthy way, right? Give it all you can and expect from it to give back to you. If you want to contact me, I'm always online and always in jet lag. So feel free to contact me however you want. Me or my digital self, it's another story. And again, keep loving technology, don't be in love with it, and apply critical thinking with the mighty power we have. So thank you all very much for listening.
Perfect.
Was I on time? AV team, was I good? I was good.
Yeah, thumbs up from Gavin at the back, which is great. Feel free to take your seat, Galit. Yep, do you want to go? Perfect, great, that's it. And just a reminder, I can see some of you have jumped on Slido already, which is fantastic. If you haven't already joined in the conversation, we'll put the QR code back up, or you can head to slido.com, VEPSYD as our code. Feel free to jump in. I'm going to try and combine a couple of questions so we can hand over the conversation as much to you as possible. And Galit, we'll do our best if we can to do short, sharp answers so we can get to as many of our audience members as possible. I'm going to combine two, one from John and one from Helen.
Yes.
So John has sort of asked a question around, ChatGPT can throw up some horrific answers, incorrect, it can be biased, etc. Who should we be looking to as the liquid paper correctors of technology, and how can we generate or have better transparency for how it generates its answers? I wanted to kind of combine that with one from Helen. She said you referenced Western society a bunch of times through the presentation. and was just interested whether non-Western societies were approaching technology in a different way, or you draw attention to it. So first question really around how can we think about course correction? And secondly, are we seeing any more thoughtful examples of navigating this in non-Western societies, or is the pattern tracking the same?
Yeah. So ChatGPT is a touchy subject for me because I am not impressed, may I say. It's not that I don't think it has power value. I personally, and I, I'm a content creator, don't find it interesting for me. And I want to just say I separate with the tools from the technologies. So for me, for example, I think of AI as nuclear physics, but ChatGPT is an A-bomb, right? So yes, we need nuclear physics. I'm still very curious about what ChatGPT specifically is giving us as a society and individuals that we can't find otherwise. So first of all, we already know that the answer we're getting is whatever is available online at that point, which is actually 3 years ago, to be honest. We also know that these modules, Midjourney, DALL-E, ChatGPT, have been scraping the internet against, I want to say IP regulation for people that create or have anything online, never consented to give this information. They also, and that was also very known, have been scraping a lot of their data for machine learning from the dark web, which is dark, as we know. So we're talking Al-Qaeda, terrorist, child pornography. This is the source behind ChatGPT. So I choose not to use it because I find it tainted. And again, I also, beyond curiosity, I'm very interested to know from people asking the question, where is that unique value it gives you that other things won't, except of accessibility? So I'm kind of like ChatGPT, for me, is not the answer, not the path.
Where does accountability come into that conversation, though, in the sense of, is that on, we've seen Sam Altman calling for regulation of organisations like his that are obviously behind ChatGPT. Are we requiring tech leaders to do more of this themselves? Are we requiring an international government approach? When you think about how we try and get better answers, better tech, where do you think we need to be focusing energy?
All these places. So I'm trying to tame myself because I know Sam Altman was in Australia. Right?
Yeah, last week, I think.
Did he leave? Is he here? Again, I'm very cynical about these tech leaders that unleash these very powerful tools that they either know are very powerful and just unleash them, or didn't realize and unleash them. In either way, I'm finding it very bizarre. They unleash them and then regulate us. And there's a political reasons for it, which they unleash it and they're like, regulate us. Elon does the same. And that means I want government funding. Let's admit it. So I would love them to be more responsible, but I realize in the tech industry right now, the module that it's built on, which is eyeballs and expansion, exponential, doesn't allow them to do it. So, but I still have hope from them. But again, technology is not something that happens to us, or the narrative is like, oh, technology, jump on the AI train, and before that it was metaverse. Technology doesn't happen to us. We adopt it or we not. We regulate it or we not. And it's a 3-layer cake. There's us as users, passive or active, developers or everyday users. There's the tech industry that is the cream in the middle. It's trying to benchmark between us and the actual policymakers, and sometimes even bypass them. And there's the policymakers. And I am a strong believer of regulation in tech because it is a common. Again, like I said earlier, it's a common. It's not something we choose to use or choose not to use. This is something that is embedded in everything we do, just like electricity, just like communication.
So when you look for points of light, EU released an AI Act last week. Is that where you call people to focus on and look at examples of more thoughtful deliberation or approaches when it comes to this?
Yes. Well, ourselves, again, I can't control the tech leaders. I don't have the position in there. Like I'm there and they know of me, but they also know what I think. So yes, it is our responsibility, especially as developers and users, to ask ourselves, is what I'm using something I'm using out of curiosity, need, or actually benefit? I do want, policymakers to regulate tech because, they are responsible on society and our culture. I want them to be responsible. That's why I can vote for them and not for Mark Zuckerberg or Elon. Never voted for them. They can talk democracy, democratizing, all they want. Never voted for any of them. So it is part of society, and so social structures should and could regulate it. The EU had been fantastic and acting faster and faster. And I hope any policymaker will realize that it's either they're going to regulate it or it won't get regulated. And then they'll have to deal with the backlash of it. And Big Pharma didn't want to be regulated before. And they said, these are people's lives. People didn't die because they got regulated. There was actually more trust. Still making good money, I think, right? Pharma is making good money, I heard. They're fine. And it's working better. They have more access to research, to resources. It's going to be fine if we regulate tech. It's not going anywhere.
I want to ask you, the top voted question at the moment gets to kind of, I guess, a broad observation that's been made about we've been through a few waves of tech advancement. Have we learnt some lessons in previous waves and the lack of thoughtfulness? There's the answer. Well, the particular question that's been asked here, and it's anonymous, is are there enough creatives, are there enough people from social disciplines, anthropology, the like, with a broader set of skills that are involved in developing AI, or are we at risk of sort of repeating what we've seen before, which is kind of monodimensional or too similar a type of skill set and lived experience developing the reality that we are all walking into?
I wish I could say, technology is such a mature industry. It really learned a lot. The tech bros are getting it. No. And I think the last 2 years have been very telltale of what's happening. We've seen crypto, NFT, the storm. It's the future. AI, LM models. It's all these cycles are becoming short. The metaverse. These cycles are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter because, again, the business, it's a deeper thing where the business model of tech is exponential growth, very quick and very broad immediately without having any, tests and checks and points. And to the other part of the question, no, there are not enough people coming from humanities or let's say from non-computer coding pathways at all in the tech industry. And when they talk about creativity, it's a very specific strand. And I wish, beyond the attempt of applying for diversity of, let's say, gender, race, which are also very limited and very superficial, to talk about diversity of society as well. Of beyond the algorithmic supremacy, and it is, a class system. The tech bros. I want to see all parts of society being in debates. I had an interview before I came here. I know there's a tech council here, and who sits in it is policymakers, big tech companies, and some industry people. Where are the other people?
Shake that up more.
No, it's not shake it up. Where are the people where it affects? Not the people that have stakes in it. The people that it affects, why are they not in the table? Where are the minorities? Where are the tech have-nots? Where are the tech illiterate? Why are they not on the table?
There's a more pointed question. Someone said, since you are the AR girl, what is the problem that VR, AR is really solving? Is the real issue that people are trying to escape from isolation, and is it not solving the real nub of the issue?
So, again, I have I'm the AR girl and not the VR girl for a reason. I believe that, VR has a space on itself. My husband is a VR guy, so I can't talk.
Got to be slightly polite, hey?
No, I think it has value, just like the entertainment world has value. I see VR more as entertainment, I have to say, because it is an alternative space. And I see AR as more of a pragmatic user interface system. that can be very beneficial actually to people that are not, I'm always like, oh, this is where the swipes and the clicks are going to be brought back to actual tactile, to tactile possibilities of digital content. And I love AR because it is constrained by the fact that it has to sit within the physical world. So it has to understand what's happening here. And even if it aspires to take over, I don't think it can. I like to say there is one platform that is free, that we all know how to use. It is fully immersive, and we call it physical reality, right? And I don't think, the attempt to hijack it or take over eyeballs, this is actually the root of the failure currently of these technologies that have been going since the 70s, because they're all trying to tell us what if the price is right, or track. And in the real world, we want to live. We get pushed around of clickbait and whatever social media is luring us to believe about how much we love and are being loved and interesting or not. But I think ultimately we are biological things living through our bodies. And what COVID did teach us is we want to be here, we want to be touched, we want sourdough bread. That was a killer app of 2020, let's admit it. And ultimately, we need to live in this world, and we need to have technology integrated into it and not trying to hijack it away from us. It can succeed, but it costs us, I find it wasteful, right? It costs us so much. So I think actually augmented reality, if done right, could allow us to reconnect with the physical world, add digital content, and it will take a while, right? But it will allow us to have contact with physical spaces and have digital layers on top of them, not taking away from them. That is my dream. I have a dream. But it will take a while, and it will take different technologies versus head mount devices, because that is a very isolating device. Again, this is my little tracky nerd holodeck dream and aspiration. Until then, if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that.
Now, our time is drawn rapidly to a close. Fortunately, Galit's hanging around, and so I want to make sure you've got time to continue to ask your questions one-on-one and in small groups after this conversation. But I did want to finish by asking you, one of the things I read you talking about in the press in the lead up to you coming here to Australia was how important you believe it is that Australian developers, entrepreneurs, members of the tech startup community that we have present here in the room today are asking themselves the question, what kind of legacy do they want to leave behind? So I want to ask you, why is that your question you're asking everyone? And in leaving today, what would you like to encourage our audience to go away and think about or go and do?
Yeah, because I think a lot of what we do, especially through technology and through our everyday life, is very much of our sense of individual self-importance, of what we want to leave behind. And that's normal for humanity. But I really want people to, again, accept our biological being, which is finite, but infinite on a biological ecosystem level. I'm sorry to bring the PhD, but it's true. We are finite. I don't know how to tell you, you're going to die. I'm going to die, we're going to die, and it's fine. But it doesn't mean that if our bodies cease to exist, what we do isn't important. It is so important. We have responsibility. We've been so caught up in the me and my legacy. I want to have, a better legacy as a race, as a species, as a society. What are we leaving behind to the younger people, to next generation, to the birds and the bees and the trees and the land? We really have to, we have great power. This is the point where you can't deny that we have this great power. We're just neglecting the great responsibility that comes with it. And it's not to be a bleeding heart. We're in the midst of a climate crisis. It's happening. There's fires. We have to accept it. And we have to apply our great, ingenious power to the better. It's a better ethical practice. It's a better economic practice. It's a better social practice. And it's just reality. It's just reality. We're done fuffing around.
What a great and purposeful note to finish on there, that call to be thoughtful and deliberate about what it is that we're doing and ask ourselves, in fact, challenge ourselves with that question, what do we want to leave behind? Can you join me in thanking Galit Ariel for kicking off our Visiting Entrepreneur program for 2023? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, it's just a couple of notes from me before we head to the opportunity to continue networking and keep our conversations going. Firstly, I want to thank our Auslan interpreter, all of our production team from DraftWorks, and our First Nations catering company who provided lunch today, Plate Events and Catering. I also want to thank Jackie from Flex by ISPT for welcoming us here to this wonderful space at Collider today. And thank you to Stone and Chalk for all their logistics support with the event. Finally, I want to thank Galit. Lots to think about in that conversation there. We got a tour de force of the good, the bad, and the weird of technology. I love how it was done through the various acts of a love story. I hope we all take up the invitation to go to couples therapy with technology as we're invited to there. And also really think about the difference between loving tech and being in love with it, the difference between can and should, the idea that the fact that we can understand and make meaning makes us special. And so let's be thoughtful in the way that we make meaning and seek to understand in this moment. And the idea that we should move away from moving fast and breaking things to moving slower and fixing things. Thank you all so much for being a part of our kickoff event. It's been my pleasure to be your host. Please continue to have conversation, and thank you once again for being a part of the event today. Cheers.